We're starting with Tesla, for several reasons. The first is, of course, the Cybertruck model. It had its official premiere a few days ago, but it still evokes emotions. Safety issues are what's questionable. The CEO, Elon Musk, obviously believes in the project very much and is convinced that the company has made a breakthrough. Much thicker than the ordinary car sheet metal, stainless steel panels are to be used to dissipate energy. Internal tests, however, are one thing, and the opinion of experts and independent institutions is another. A group of specialists pointed out to sharp edges, which can be a deadly threat, especially to so-called unprotected road users, pedestrians and cyclists. On this occasion, Cybertruck's availability in Europe has been clarified. One of the chief engineers working on the project admitted in an interview for Top Gear that the old continent would be quite a challenge due to the pedestrian protection regulations. And this, in my opinion, definitely ends the discussion. Cybertruck will officially not be available in Europe, but we will stay with it for a while, because despite the huge interest and many emotions, it is not exactly what the brand's fans expected. The car was supposed to have a range of 800 kilometers, but in the most expensive version, the one for $100,000, the range is barely, or as much as, a little over 500 kilometers. However, it can be extended significantly, up to 750 kilometers, thanks to the range extender. The range extender in electric cars is usually a combustion unit. This was the case in the BMW i3. This is the case in the Mazda MX-30, but not in the Tesla. For $16,000, potential buyers will receive additional batteries in the form of a battery pack installed on the back of the vehicle. It weighs 270 kilograms, so self-assembly is unlikely to be possible. And one more, last interesting fact from Tesla, or rather from Scandinavia. The problem started in Sweden, with a sharp conflict between trade unions and Tesla. Employees of service and collection points went on strike. They began to fight for a collective agreement, regulating financial issues, as well as holiday and retirement allowances. But since Tesla has its own vision of the world, which they showed many times, even with controversial direct sales at the beginning, they said no. And it began. Electricians joined the strike. They stopped repairing chargers. Municipal services stopped collecting garbage from Tesla points. Dockers stopped unloading cars from ships. And the post office unions ceased providing license plates. The Swedish Department of Transportation, which issues these plates, also indirectly joined the strike. Tesla went to court, and the first instance secured Tesla's claims quite quickly. Plates were to be issued, but this decision was appealed, and the next sentence is no longer favorable for Tesla. The Scandinavians showed great solidarity. The Danes and Norwegians joined the strike. The Finns will probably also join and will not allow the unloading of cars intended for the Swedish market. Let's take a look at the Stellantis group now. We know a little more about the car that will replace this zombie, Lancia Ypsilon. The generation currently on sale was created in 2011. And since 2017, this model has been available only in Italy, where it is still very popular. However, in February next year, we should get to know the next incarnation of the little Lancia, in an electric version and at the same very last time, with a combustion engine. If the new Ypsilon was a baby SUV, it would be based on components already known from the Jeep Avenger and Fiat 600. However, if it's going to be an A or B segment car, as before, the donor will probably be a Peugeot 208 Opel Corsa, and that's probably what happened. The first spy photos don't reveal much on the outside, but they do in the cabin. There is a table of sorts, but let's say it can be used by engineers to place a laptop. I'm more interested in seats that look like they're upholstered with Alcantara, a wonderful material with which many people associate Lancia. The last Lancia with combustion engine sounds sad, but the last Panda with combustion engine sounds even sadder. We still don't know much about this car, but there is a good chance that it will be a car designed in India by the Tata Group, at least when it comes to the technical side, because the Citroen EC3 platform comes from India, and there are many indications that Fiat Panda can also be built on it. However, we certainly already know that Panda will be produced where Punto used to be, that is in Serbia. Is it good or is it bad? We'll see as we drive. But when it comes to combustion cars, not all is lost. The head of Stellantis concern, Carlos Tavares, it's hard to say that he hopes He rather persuades that the upcoming elections to the European Parliament and the presidential elections in the States can change a lot, also in the approach to electrification. And just in case, he announces that if moving away from combustion cars is to be slowed down, or if the authorities decide to completely abandon it, the company is ready, and combustion engines can be delivered and developed for many years. And one last interesting fact from the Stellantis company, Fiat again, but this time 500e, the electric one. The pilot project of cooperation between Fiat and Opel is starting in Madrid. 100 cars available for short-term rent, car sharing, in the Spanish capital will have an option to have their discharged batteries replaced within 5 minutes. If the idea works, perhaps the pilot will turn into something bigger. And it's worth mentioning that this is not the first such initiative. There has been no news lately about NIO was supposed to build its exchange stations at Shell stations, unless it's in the context of gigantic losses. For 10 years, nothing has been heard either about the Israeli startup Better Place, and they were the pioneers. And since we mentioned Better Place, this idea was developed together with Renault. And now, 2 interesting facts from Renault. Apparently, Volkswagen is approaching them and wants to cooperate in the development of a platform for cheap electric cars. Interestingly, Volkswagen refused to comment on this matter, while Renault was more effusive. Cooperation is needed to be competitive, but we have not signed any agreement yet, said a spokesman for the French brand. Considering Volkswagen's current problems, joining forces makes sense, although it probably has no roots. Renault fraternized with various companies, with Mercedes and Suzuki, but probably never with a Volkswagen, and the French have an almost ready cheap car. Renault 5, announced for some time already, will look like this. I don't know about you, but I felt a shiver of slight disappointment. Although I shouldn't have, because the car is very similar to the concept version. The 5 will be a small car, 3 meters and 90 centimeters long. The rest is still a secret. Premiere will take place in February. It is probably worth mentioning the 3rd generation Dacia Duster. I won't lie, neither the first nor the second one received special recognition in our editorial board. But there's a good chance it will be different this time. Duster has grown. It is 4 meters and 34 centimeters. It looks nicer outside and, even more importantly, in the cabin, which now resembles the one from Sandero, but only slightly. What's under the bonnet? First of all, 1.0 LPG petrol with 100 horsepower, but also 2 hybrids, 130 horsepower, with a 1.2 turbo engine, and here with a manual gearbox there will be 4-wheel drive. The more powerful hybrid has 140 horsepower, a 1.6 petrol engine, and a multi-mode gearbox. Diesel? Unfortunately, it disappeared from the offer. We don't know the prices yet. The current Duster started at less than euro 20,000. And if I were to bet, the price of the new Duster will be similar, maybe a bit higher.